Still landing believers as well. So nothing's changed for him in terms of his solo plan. We actually didn't watch him in any of his solos last season, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. I don't know much about him in terms of how smart he is, in terms of how he rotates. I know he's a good in-game player, but that's about all I know. He's best fighter. Yeah, he's definitely got probably the best fighting mechanics in the world. Because there's creative mechanics and editing fast, and then there's the editing fast and combining that with really good peaks, really good angles, movement, aim, the stuff that actually matters in fights. Alright, so I'm expecting him to be slightly aggressive. He might think he's actually in a shit lobby. But he's forcing himself center. This is very normal from EU. To try and push himself into a relatively central position and try fight for a kill quite early. I think pushing himself super central like this and looking for a fight doesn't quite make sense though, does it? Like, you know, for all the jokes I make about EU being slow to pick up the concept of deadside, which it was, there's still a lot of people on EU in general who hard force center. It's burned into their brains at this point. They don't do anything else. It's the only strategy they know. Particularly in Zone 1. They'll hard force center Zone 1, and then from there they think all the other rotations come easily enough. So fighting central I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. Particularly if you're not doing the best in the cup, which he isn't. But this is exactly what I mean. Like, he tried to look for a fight in amongst all these people, and there's ways he's finding it hard to move about, because there's just a lot of people. So looking for a fight in this scenario, you can sort of see what I'm getting at. It just kind of makes no sense. So if he's being aggressive, I would suggest instead waiting to see a little bit more stuff happen in front of you, and then potentially look for one on the edge, you know, so you can control a little bit more what's going on around you. You see people rather than having to find them via them shooting you. Sup, Dart? And also, of course, whenever you're trying to find fights where you've got third party, potentially you waste mats trying to protect yourself. So now he's actually forced to find a fight later on for a refresh, or he's got to get lucky and find a refresh elsewhere. At least he's still got his metal. Having the metal's the most important, because you can find wood, you can find brick relatively easy enough. Alright, breaking into the back of a tarp. Keeps the refresh off. No way he's just gone and yoinked the refresh like that, bro. That's so rude. And again, this is a much better fight to take because he has a little bit more knowledge about what's in front of him and what's behind him. Doesn't find the kill, but he jumps on the opportunity. And one of the things I always talk about, if you've watched any of my review streams, you're gonna be, oh, he's saying it again. Tier 1 players are never, 100%, they are never sitting still doing nothing. They are always looking, always paying attention to what could potentially be a refresh, what could potentially do, you know, what could potentially be game-changing for them. They are always aware. This is something that I say about every single Tier 1 player. They don't sit about and let things happen. They make things happen. So he's gone, and he might not have got that kill, but he's made sure that he's gone and secured that refresh for him, and now he's going into in-game with a spaz, a gold scar, a launch pad, and 6 minis. But clearing those layers and making sure he's not on low ground, getting caught up in all the people also rotating in. Instead of being aware here, he's able to find an easy refresh. I mean, that's very simple, isn't it? I think even I could find that refresh. Always being aware. One thing that in previous metas where we've had less mobility, one thing that I've always been a huge advocate of is making sure that you get to Axis. So if you watch Muzz streams when they're playing Stackers or Cashies, if you watch, and you'll hear Luda call it all the time. You'll hear let's get to Axis, or you hear the idea of Axis constantly being brought up. And Axis is just when you've got 4th zone and you've got half-half and you've got Axis is there and there. So essentially the intersection between the two of them. So making sure you get to the Axis, and doing that in the previous seasons where there's limited mobility, you were able to access dead side, and this was for quite a while, even though it's fairly obvious. These were always free rotates. You could take these rotations and no one would even look at you. Nowadays, everyone knows about the half-half dead side. So getting the access is a little bit less important. But it's one thing that if you watched... Oh, fuck, I did a review ages back on the Frenchies in EU. What they do in these zones is they control so much space and access. Thing is, if you've got a bunch of people who have to rotate in from, say, like all around the edge of the map here, what a lot of them tend to do is they hug the edge of zone. And like I can tell you, I can promise you right now, there are so many people in chat right now who, if they are as far away from half-half as possible, their first instinct is to immediately wrap around the edge. You tell me in chat, that's exactly what I think 90% of you will do. 100%, I can promise you that. And what you can do is, if you're quite low, yeah, look at all the yeses in chat. Yep, 100%, yes, yes, yes. The thing is, if you are already close to zone, or if you're really in need of a refresh, one tactic that works really, really well is to farm the constant congestion from people coming in from that way, right? So what you can do, and what we've seen a lot of French people do, it seems to be like a thing within their community. If you've got half-half here, and say you're on an axis, and we talked again about most people take this route, they'll try stick to edge. What they'll do is they'll control a huge amount of space in this area here, and then as people are rotating into them, they'll look for boxes, they'll look for, pump shots, they'll look for huge damage to try and find refreshes, because they are confident that there are going to be streams and streams and streams of people, not people playing together, but people just taking regular mid-game rotation. This is in trios and solos as this goes across. So this is the perfect time to find a refresh, and the perfect place to find a refresh on rotation to half-half. This is an absolute classic in EU. People always look for refreshes at this stage, and all you have to do is control 3-4 boxes around you. It's an investment, but you're hoping it's an investment that'll pay off. So spending 3-4 boxes worth of material, maybe even 5-6. At one stage when I was reviewing the Frenchies, they actually controlled about 7 or 8 boxes of space, and these guys just walked right into it. They found 3-4 kills, and it was complete refresh. Of course, it's spending to hope that you find it. So, but a lot of the time investing pays off. It's the same idea of expanding into moving zones to negate getting caught up in congestion if it pulls far again. So same sort of theory. Let's get back into it. So essentially what he's doing here is the exact same sort of theory, not the exact same, but it sort of works in the same idea, where he's coming into an axis. So you can see right down the bottom here, he's just right there. And if I pull all the way out, like if I sort of show you what this looks like, you can see why that strategy would be so effective with all of these players sitting down the bottom here on this axis. And if we go over here, all of these people down the bottom over at this axis, you can see how people tend to group up, and you can try and find something around that area if there weren't already a lot of people spawning on top of half-half. So what he's done, he's cleared that congestion, he's got away from that potential refresh danger. And then if we go to here and we watch him here, you can see he's just controlling the space. This guy now has limited space to move into. He's also being a bit of a flopper. He's not paying much attention. He snatches the wall, finds an easy refresh. So it's not exactly like he's controlled a whole bunch of space and he's gone out and his specific intent is to try and find this refresh by controlling space. He's just being aware, and he knows that lots of people are going to be rotating into him just because of that general theory. I don't know if he knows that, but that's how I'd look at it. Alright. So I think he rails this poor kid. Woo! So he's got 2 pads. So he's not worried at all. He can get the entirety of first moving for free. Not only did he pull first moving, so he's actually probably going to get the entirety of first moving off his 1 pad. He's then going to be able to pad in second moving, and then he's still going to have 130 mats to use. So this is going to be a very successful game for him. And he isn't going to even have to do that much, because he again, you talk about constantly being active earlier to help him find his pads, help him find those refreshes. Very, very important. With the small amount of tarping that he did do quite well, I think, at extending into zone a little bit further. Yeah, he's done quite well there. So it's not like he's not one of these guys down here where he's caught up in the congestion on lows. So what Noah has here is he's got the freedom to extend out into the space, and he's not going to get caught up in all of this crap down here, right? He's got freedom to move anywhere he wants. So layer changing, really important to help out with that, but it's also making sure that you extend into free space as these moving zones start to close. Again, the idea of investment, that's exactly what I was talking about. The idea of investing a few more mats just to clear that space to mitigate the worst case scenario, which is that if zone keeps pulling, you get caught up in a bunch of people all trying to rotate the same way, and someone who needs a refresh box dives you. So mitigating those worst case scenarios is really important. Is he a little sui pad? Nope, not a little sui pad. But he's seen it. So immediately, risk identification. He's seen the guy who's holding height. He's seen he's all the way back zoned. This is a free height take for him. So straight away. And he's also seen that someone else is taking it, so he knows that that guy's already being pressured. He's going to look up for it. So, again, super basic. Just noting that that's super free, and then having the confidence to get up and take it. So now he's on height, and again, it's just that identification. He padded. He straight away looked at height. He looked around. Okay, that's really free. I know that I can go straight to front zone, turn around, take it. Same exact thing that Tayson did last season, except Tayson did it with the peppers. Tayson would just bull straight to front zone, turn around, take height. I was just wanting to see if he drops down or if he's just constantly pressuring. So it looks like it's just constant pressure. That guy dies to zone. Unlucky. Alright, so again we see him forcing center. We saw this last game, and again we saw him fighting in center. I'm not a huge fan of the fighting in center. I think it makes no sense. I'm just to see how he rotates this. Insta jumps in the car, but then he wants nothing more to do with it. This guy's shooting at his car, so now he's stuck with Noahreyli next to him. I wouldn't suggest that in the future, but it's what it is. My guess is that this is just going to play out, and we're just going to have to wait and see. Yep, so Cash Cup Classic. The solo Cash Cup Classic sitting in a box. Try and get next to something you can refarm with what you use to make the box. Super simple stuff. Oh, wow, and then he pulls basically full center third on far edge. The only thing that's not good about his position is that he's quite low. So you look up here, there's a lot of people who are going to be able to hold him from there. We'll 4x this because he's going to be Cash Cup Classicing for a wee while longer here. Let me try to get some spray down. But again, the idea of constantly being looking for things. Never stopping, always looking around, keeping an eye on what's going around him. I talked about that. That was why he got... Honestly, that awareness is why he won last game. And there's definitely an element of RNG to what he found last game and how he found it. And then this game, there's an element of zone luck. Because you don't pull a shitty second zone and then center third every day of the week. There's luck involved there. There's definitely luck involved. Pulls first moving. Holy fuck. There is some serious zone luck in this game. Think about what happened. Where's he landing? So he landed center map. He rotated to center zone, set up perfect center first. Tried to rotate to center second, but got stopped on edge. And then pulled perfect center third on edge of second. And then he obviously pulled third because he's center second. He had a little bit of rotate, but because he was center, hardly any. He then pulled basically half-half. He had to rotate nowhere, and now he's pulled first moving as well. So there is a serious... There's a good amount of zone luck locked in there, don't get me wrong. But you still have to make use of it. There will be people who would not have made use of this as well as Noah has. So he's got 2 pads which he can utilize. No distance to cover because he's pulled. He should find this rotation basically entirely free. Clear some space. Again, really good. Vertically this time. Or he's going to recycle even. So he's still got 2 pads, which means he's guaranteed to get one of these rotations for free. Stays up nice and high. Still got 2 pads. And my guess is we're going to see something very, very similar to what we saw last game. Where he looks at height. Not maybe now. And here we go. So this is him paying attention to height. Lands on a high place in front of zone. Turns around. And is immediately looking at being aggressive on height. He's just being all sneaky. Oh, bro. The way he moves. And there you go. So, like... extended from what he did last game, but very similar. Very similar in the case that he pads to front zone, he turns around, he looks at height. Castry had a little bit more going on. This was high reload, obviously, so the players aren't as clueless. So Castry was actually onto it here. Castry was like, "Fuck, I really got to catch up zone." So he at least wasn't completely clueless like the guy was last game. But Noah just makes his life hell, just constantly, tapping him with damage after damage after damage. Making it really, really tough for Castry to do anything, to stay in front of zone. They're taking pressure. And then he plays this real. This is smart. This is something I would never live coach, because I always think it's never going to end well. But I mean, look at how easy that was for him. Takes a little bit of zone to do it, but now he's got height, and now he's just going to get constantly pressured. They get constant pressure down a castery, and he has height, and from here he's going to win the game. It's just going to be constant pressure. He's got the P90. Doesn't have many bullets in it, but it's just still pressure. And then hits him hard to finish off. 4-kill dub. So again, I wouldn't call that overly skillful. It's just utilizing what he had in front of him. It's a really good lesson about making sure that you know the ability of your utility and making sure you get the most out of it. All right, but you see the strategy coming in again. He is very central of first zone, so he's guaranteed second. And what he's kind of hoping for is that he doesn't have to rotate that far to get into third. That seems to be what we've seen from him so far. What I'm very interested to see here is if he gets an easy rotation into third. Alright, there we go. So, not the greatest zone for him, but it's not like he has to go a huge amount. But this is the exact sort of zone you're hoping for if you're one of the players who's playing a full central first theory, which is essentially what he's done, right? So he's got himself to very, very much center third, and then off center first, and then off center first he's hoping to pull a decent second, and then off a decent second he's hoping to pull as a good a third as he can hope for. And he's got a pretty good third here. He doesn't have to rotate that far. And now this right here is the unintended consequence of everybody playing center first, which is a EU Cash Cup classic. So what you end up getting is these ridiculous clumps like this, clusters of people who just should not be clusters. Like this is ridiculous. And the reason that people are grouped like this is because we've had first zone, and then second zone was kind of like this, and then everyone in first zone kind of grouped into this one area here now, and then third zone's pulled like this, so now we've got just a bunch of people rotating here, and they've kind of all tried to wrap around this, and they've now ended up here. And it's an unintended consequence of so many people playing to the same game plan. You end up with everyone in one big area, and these kids are going to fucking hate themselves if they get a far zone rotation to fourth. Because getting out of this will be near impossible without using a whole bunch of mats or without using a whole bunch of shield. This is a huge moment where that idea of staying high is really important. Spoken first game about the axis, the way that people find refreshes in axis. And the reason that staying high in those situations is important is because of that idea of people potentially claiming space and then getting caught up in that space and in that congestion. And as a result of having so many people around you and so much space taken by others around you, you can get killed. Same aspect here. You can basically think of all of these people here as potential people who could be looking for refreshes on you. There are so many people around you that what you should be doing is just trying to get as far away from people as you can. You cannot do that horizontally. There is no way that you can rotate through these guys and wrap around into dead side. You can't wrap around into dead side here. So you clear some space between you and others by essentially getting height or playing vertically. This is why, even though there wasn't a huge amount of mid-game theory working back in like World Cup days, first trio FNCS, even though there wasn't a huge amount of theory happening at that amount of time, at that stage of the game, the reason Aqua was constantly winning stuff is because he had this idea: if someone's in front of me, I'm going to ramp over them. If someone's in front of me, I'm going to just go over the top of them. Constantly having the alpha mentality of, I'm just going to make sure that anyone in front of me, I'm going over the top of them, doesn't matter. It works in solos. It is a theory that has worked from the start of the game. It will continue to work right through, because if there is no horizontal space to clear, you always have vertical. You can always get over the top of people. Holy fuck, did you see that? The entire country has to migrate. Good God. I didn't even notice that. Look at this, it's like a fucking flock of birds. So again, it comes down to the idea of everyone playing off the same mid-game theory. Look at this shit. This is fucking ridiculous. That is unbelievable. I don't think I've seen that many people pad to half-half before. So that many people padding, it just goes to show when everyone plays to the same mid-game theory, you're actually stuck with a lot of work to do, which is not good. You know, you're forced to use a pad, you're forced to use mobility or we've got a really tough rotation ahead of you. Alright, now I'm really, really fucking interested to see how he plays this. Really interested. Is it going to be very similar to what we've seen? He's got 2 pads, so again, there's an element of RNG coming in. Is he going to be using the same pad? Look for height on second moving, so basically pad and then tarp most at first moving, and then look for height second moving off of that. Oh, I'm not a fan of that landing. Again, I think the idea of finding the ultimate place as far edge as far ahead on possible, I don't think that was a good landing spot. So he's going to tarp this and then look for height with his second pad. Let's see. Or is he going to? No, he's going to use his second pad. All right, so he's got no pad for second moving. Let's see if he's still got that same idea of looking for height. Zone pulls back. Zone pulls that way. So, or one thing you got to think about: sometimes theories can't work. So zone's pulling this way. It probably won't work in this way, so that idea of putting your head down, just fucking gapping it to front zone and then turning around looking for height, it won't necessarily work in this one because there's a lot of builds that height can play off of to make it really difficult for you to take height, because it's not like he's extending out over complete fresh territory. If he was expanding out over this, absolutely no, could put his head down, run to front zone, turn around, look at height. But if you're going back over old builds, it's really easy for height to essentially just stay established, and the only way that you're going to challenge him is with the pad or with a pepper actually build fighting for height. I don't want to say it. I'm sorry. I'm going to continuously say, but always looking. That is absolutely 100% a free kill. You're always going to get in on one shot with a harpoon. You are always going to get first shot. Gets himself in. And he's got a refresh, but he's found five peppers, bro. And surely he looks for height off of this. Oh, another back... Fuck, now we've seen this twice, too. We've seen back height. We've seen a back height take twice as well now. So he's happy to ramp from behind. Looks like he one-pumps this kid. No, he doesn't one-pump him, but he forces him off. Gets the kill. And now he's on height. So again, it's the theory that's worked for years at this point. Second moving, on the transition. He's just done it in 3 different ways. He's done it with the front zone to pad. He's done it with a back zone with a pad, or after fighting. And now he's done it with a pepper from back zone. So he's got 3 different theories, but he's doing it at the exact time and in the exact same... It's just like the manner of how he's doing it. It's just... He's got an intent, and he's set on it, and he goes and he just executes. Really, really well done. But here's a very set mid-game plan. He goes straight to center first zone. He boxes up and he hopes he pulls zone. And that can work. That's fine. And if someone comes and fights him, he fights it. We saw how that could go awry in the first game we reviewed, but that's all right. Going center zone always has those risks. And then in endgame, he plays endgame and then he looks for height in second transition. I mean, it's just pressure. And this is winning in the Cash Cup. Nice shot, and I said he hits really fucking hard, and he hits hard there. It's just like so simple, but so unbelievably effective.